Hello, this is Fear Dragon, and welcome to Breaking Out, the show about North American StarCraft 2 players. Here on this show, we spend 1 week highlighting an up-and-coming North American player. Throughout the week, we find out more about the player's history, their personality, and their playstyle over the course of 6 short episodes. On Monday, we'll interview the player and find out more about them. Tuesday through Thursday, we'll watch a game from each of the various matchups casted by your very own Fear Dragon. On Friday, we'll check out a generally awesome game with some sick play, and on Saturday, we'll kick it back with the player and have some wacky fun with some randomly selected events like handicap ladder matches, karaoke, and dance contests. Each episode aims to be about 20 to 30 minutes long, so you can learn more about the North American StarCraft 2 scene without interrupting your busy WCS schedule. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the show. Hello everyone, welcome to Breaking Out, a show about North American players that you need to know about. Today we're going to have a very special guest on the show. It is going to be one of the new contestants in WCS Challenger League. He recently made it through the WCS America qualifiers and is now going to be representing North America as one of the few Americans in WCS America. Please welcome, representing Core Gaming, it is going to be Core Gaming's JonSnow. How are you doing today, Jared?
Hi, thanks for the interview. Feeling pretty good.
I mean, it's good to have you on. And really quickly, just a little bit about the show. Breaking Out is a show, again, about North American players. On this show, we spend 6 days just spending some time covering some up-and-coming North American talent that people just honestly don't know enough about, and really should. And I think JonSnow, of course, a really great example of this. A lot of people are kind of surprised that he's, like, who is this guy? He made it through WCS America qualifiers. He took out some great names, like he took out Zigua, he took out Moto K, he took out a couple other, like, really fantastic players. And, I feel sort of lucky because I had the opportunity to cast a little bit of you when you were back on Team.SMI in the URTL. And I remember saying, like, this guy is really awesome and everything. But it's so great to see that you're rising up and everything. But anyways, let's just kind of go ahead and jump into it. So, I mean, I've sort of mentioned a couple of things about you, but who are you actually? Like, are you 8 years old? Are you 35 years old? Are you a student? Are you working full-time? Tell us about yourself.
So my name is Jared George. I'm still a student. I'm in my junior year of high school. I'm 16 years old. And I play StarCraft as Zerg. I'm pretty good.
That's a pretty fair statement, man. I would say that you're pretty good as well. So, sorry, did you say that you were a student then?
Yes, I'm in high school. I'm in my junior year,
Okay,
which
awesome.
is it's fun.
Yeah, how exactly do you balance going through both StarCraft, like playing at the level that you do, and also managing school, especially with junior year in North America? I mean, you must be going through like SATs and getting ready for college apps and everything if you're preparing for that.
Yep, I normally just put school first and deal with homework and going to school first, and then StarCraft comes as a second to that. So it's not too hard to balance, but you do want to play more sometimes, and you have to cut back.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. And what do your parents think about your involvement in esports? I mean, are they aware? Of course, now that you are in WCS Challenger League, I believe that you'll also be getting some money involved from that. So, are you just gonna kind
Yeah,
of?
if I make to the end rounds, I'll
Mm-hmm.
make some money. But I've told my parents a little bit about it. I think it's pretty cool. They just want to make sure that I still keep my grades up and don't let it take over my life completely, and just focus on being well-rounded, and they're fine with me being a part of it.
Mm-hmm. And do you know what kind of parts of school that you want to focus on? Do you know what you want to do? Or what you're going to major in when you go to college or anything?
It's still pretty up in the air right now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of experiencing some different things like computer science and other math and technology related fields. So I haven't really chosen anything yet, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm experimenting.
Yeah, I'm actually a computer science major, so go computer
Oh,
science. If you have any questions about that, ask me later. But
uh,
I'm really curious though, like what got you started into esports? I mean, for the most part, you're honestly still pretty young. So, like, was StarCraft 2 your first game? Did you play Brood War? Did you play some other esports game?
I've never really been competitive in any other game besides StarCraft. It was really
Mm-hmm.
my first RTS that I played at any multiplayer in. I think I played Warcraft 3 for a little bit in the campaign, but StarCraft 2 was my first game. Never really played Brood War or anything.
Mhm.
And all the other games were pretty casual. I didn't really know what esports was until a couple of years ago.
And how exactly did you find out about that?
Well, it was through kind of like Team Liquid and the StarCraft scene. I saw some tournaments and I tuned in. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And also through the YouTube casters like Husky and HD. I enjoyed those when I was younger also.
Hmm. Cool. And now that you're actually involved in esports, I mean, what does your normal day look like? Obviously, you're again managing high school as well as playing at your level. Um, walk me through like an average day in the life of JonSnow.
So like on a normal school day, I'll probably get up around 6:30 and then go to school until around 2, and then I come home and I'll have some food and relax for a little bit. Then I'll go back for cross country practice until around 4:30. And then I'll come back home and do homework and eat dinner until around 7ish, and then I'll play StarCraft for a couple hours, maybe a few, and I might stream. Then after that I'll just do any other homework that I need to do that I might have missed or anything, and then I'll just get ready for bed and try to aim to go to sleep by around 10 or 11.
Oh wow. So it sounds like for the most part, like you're playing maybe anywhere between 3 to 4 or 5 hours a day. Is that pretty accurate for the most part?
Probably closer to 3 on most
Hmm.
school days. On the weekends, I can probably get closer to 5
Hmm.
if I work pretty hard.
So I mean, do you find it difficult to keep up with? Like, I mean, you're definitely at least if you weren't already, you're now becoming one of the top North American players. And do you find it difficult to like keep up with only playing maybe like 3 4 hours a day, whereas a lot of people are kind of actually devoting their almost full energies to this?
Well, I feel like I've never really been a person who needs a ton of practice to
Hmm.
be extremely good, but I don't think I'm at my top level yet. So I think more practice would help. But it's better just to not think about having going up against people who have a lot more practice than you. Because I think if you do that, then you just kind of psych yourself out and you're just going to
Hmm.
lose. And it's better just to think of the game a little bit back and try to just get advantages where you can and not have to worry about them being maybe more mechanically strong than you. So I do
Yeah.
sometimes, be a little cheesy, a little greedy to kind of make up for the fact that I might not be as good as them in the game.
Hmm. I think it's fantastic to be a player that actually mixes those in. It's so important. And, just kind of talking a little bit, moving toward your actual gameplay and everything. What do you feel has been your biggest achievement in StarCraft 2? And there might be an obvious answer to this, but I'm actually really curious if it's a different one than what I'm expecting.
I think the obvious answer would probably be qualifying for Challenger League.
Hmm.
That was a great achievement. But I also feel like about a year ago, I did really well in the team league where I took off 3 games against EG, where I took out
Hmm.
Revival, Thorzane, and Suppy. That was used to be my biggest achievement until I qualified for Challenger League. So I think those two would probably be the things I'm most proud of right now.
Wow, that's actually amazing. Like those are some very very strong players. Like so this is about last year. How exactly did those games go? Did you like out macro Thorzane? Did you like out spoon the Spoon Terran or what
So
happened?
the game versus Revival was it was a pretty early cheese by me. I did a Ling Bailing attack and I
Hmm.
was able to kill him with it. And then versus Thorzane, he 2 racks me, and I was able to defeat him because
Hmm.
it messed up a little bit. And then the last game versus Suppy was a pretty standard macro game, and I won. Then I ended up losing to Jadong, who just is too good. Jadong's a little good. So the games weren't completely macro orientated, but I still did feel pretty good coming out on
Hmm.
top, especially in my match for Suppy. That was a pretty intense game.
Hmm. Hey man, there's never any shame in losing in JVZ. Okay,
Yeah.
especially back then when that was actually JVZ. So that's really awesome though. And speaking of your WCS America qualifiers, is you actually again you qualified over some Korean players like Dragon and Moto K. You qualified over some Americans like Elaham, and you even qualified over one of the best Chinese players, Zigua. So,
Well, actually, I didn't play Zigua. We both qualified, so we didn't have to play each other.
oh,
It was the
okay,
top 4 qualified.
okay.
I beat Slam, the Taiwanese Zerg before that.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
was actually one of the other players. But I mean, still, you've definitely climbed over some like amazing players. Do you feel like you just kind of went Super Saiyan during the WCS America qualifiers, or like what happened that just allowed you to just power through all these people?
I feel like the opponents weren't. I feel too far out of my league. They're
Hmm.
all manageable. I took it match by match and didn't really think of the whole having to beat everybody in a row. I just took it
Hmm.
by each match and just was able to win and kept winning. And eventually, I was in the finals of that my bracket, and I was like, well, I guess I can might be able to make it out. And then I beat Slam 2-0, and I was a challenger. It was it's pretty surprising. I didn't. Felt easier than it should have felt, I think.
No regrets about it though, right? And you're still
No,
happy to.
no. I'm glad I won.
All right, that's totally fair. So yeah, let's actually kind of move on to your team, and you are on the team Core Gaming. It's a pretty recently formed team, so I mean, tell me what you think about it. Like you're moved in from .smi. Why did you leave .smi for it?
Well, originally I was on .sca, and I left
Mm-hmm.
SMI. I left SCA for SMI because there were some promises that they could offer, which seemed really great. But it ended up that that team kind of fell apart as some things didn't turn out to be real, and it was a
Yeah.
very kind of weird situation. So that team kind of dissolved, and a lot of the players. Well, actually, I then was looking for a new team, and I found Justin, who was the guy who was just making core, and
Mm-hmm.
he was talking to me about it, and he had some really good ideas. So I kind of signed on with him, and then I brought some people from the old team, and we just started going from there. And we kind of just made a new team, which was what SMI was supposed to be. But Core is just like the much better version of SMI.
So what exactly is it? Like, is this new thing that you wanted SMI to be that Core Gaming is now?
SMI was supposed to be like a pretty good place for NA players to just kind of come up to the scene because there's the top teams like EG and maybe some smaller ones like Quantic and Complexity, but they normally are outsourcing to Koreans and some
Mm-hmm.
European players, so it's very hard for the NA scene to get on any very good team. So SMI was supposed to be that for the very high level NA players who don't really have a home,
Mm-hmm.
and Core turned out to be a much better place for that, as they wanted to stay within the North America and maybe some European players, but they wanted to stay in the kind of foreign scene and didn't really want to outsource all the skill, which is really
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Yeah, that actually sounds like a really great place to be. And, it's kind of on that same line of thought, like, is that what core gaming offers you? Is it just being able to have that condensed version of a lot of great North American players are on this team? So you have like those practice partners, or are you getting specific connections that you wouldn't have otherwise had through core? Or are you getting a salary? Like, what is core gaming offering you?
Core Gaming is offering a really good deal, probably better than most teams that I would be able to get on. They offer a salary, and they would give you gear on request if you want a new mouse or a new keyboard or a new webcam or something that you want that would you feel would improve your kind of play.
Mm-hmm.
You can ask for that, and they'll send it out. And they also gave the team new gear, not gear. What do you call it? Shirts and sweatshirts. I'm actually wearing one right now. It's a Core Gaming
Hey.
sweatshirt, which is really nice. So they're offering a lot, and if you qualify for any tournament, they would send you out for it, which was really cool. So they offer actually a ton,
Mm-hmm.
which is really great.
Yeah, it sounds like you're pretty happy with core gaming, and of course, I'm definitely a fan of core gaming. They have some absolutely fantastic players, and I'm also friends with some of the people in the management of core gaming. They're some pretty nice guys. But with that being said, let's talk a little bit more about something that you might feel a little bit more comfortable talking about. It's going to be the gameplay, all right? So here's the hypothetical situation, okay? Dustin Browder is walking down the street, and there's just some stray rock that might be named an asteroid, but it's a stray rock and for all intensive purposes. And the stray rock, lands straight on Dustin Browder's foot, and he's unable to walk now, so now he can no longer at Blizzard headquarters walk down and tell David Kim his thoughts about the game balance or anything. So, David Kim says, I have to find a replacement for my boss. He says, this kid, JonSnow, just qualified for WCS America. He's a really smart guy, let's go for it. Let's go for it. He signs you on. What actions you take as now the head of StarCraft 2? Either balance wise, changes to WCS, I don't know, making it free to play, like whatever you want. What would you do?
So as the new Dustin Browder, I'd probably the first change I would make would be giving free multiplayer for everybody. Free to play just for the multiplayer campaign can still be you have to purchase it, so they can still get the both models. So I think that would be pretty good to just have unlimited accounts you can make on a free to play kind of servers. For as far as balance, it's pretty good balance right now. There's not a ton that needs to be changed. I think maybe swarm hosts and ravens are kind of boring units. Well, not boring, but they can lend to very boring games. So maybe adjusting those so games are more exciting. I think the map pool, maybe outsourcing to the community more, who can oftentimes make much more interesting maps than the Blizzard map makers can make. And for balance, right now maybe it's hard to make any huge balance changes. I think they're doing a pretty good job at just adjusting things. The recent win rates were very close to 50%. I was pretty impressed. The ZVP was a little bit, I think, lacking, and the ZVT in Korea was a little uneven as far as I think Zerg was actually benefiting, but overall it looked really good. So as far as balance, maybe I know that they're already making a lot of changes. They're thinking of nerfing the Widowmine and buffing tanks to kind of mix that up. I think that's a great idea. Maybe for Zerg units, the Corruptor, I'd probably want to change that a lot. It's a really boring unit, it just attacks and has a little spell. Maybe if they can make it more interesting, or instead of just corruption, it actually corrodes damage or something. It's a damage over time ability. Besides that, there's tons of buffs I could just give Zerg so I could win every game, but that's maybe that's not the best thing to do. For ZVZ, there is some issues with Muta v Muta is still pretty dominant, so maybe making that more exciting by giving infestors an easier transition. I'm not sure how you do that exactly, but I think infestors actually are a unit which kind of was forgotten in Heart of the Swarm, which is a little sad because they were extremely powerful in Wings of Liberty, a little bit too powerful, and they got really boring. But maybe making them 3 supply like the Swarm Host and giving them some abilities back, like longer neural parasite range or a better fungal, something like that, to make it more viable. I think that'd be a good option. Something I'd want to play around with would be the Infestor.
Yeah, that's actually something I don't hear too much about. And I'm a little bit sad that you don't want the DT speed buff to be as fast as a Stim Marine. Yeah. I mean, you weren't a fan of that one?
Yeah, that thing, DT's already giving me a little bit of trouble. Oh, so man. I would not like that. But yeah, the Infestor, a lot of people hate the Infestor still just because of the end of Wings of Liberty. There's a lot of animosity towards the unit. But I think nowadays it's a much nicer unit that you don't really have to worry about being overpowered. So you can play with it some more.
I actually have to agree with you. I'm so glad that someone else feels this way. I feel like it gets extra animosity just because of how Wings of Liberty ended, whereas, people are saying, no, it's a terrible unit. I never want to see it again. I never want to see it used. I want to see it used as much as a mothership, with the actual Vortex and everything. That's a little bit extreme. It wasn't that bad.
Oh yeah, the mothership still exists. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I know, right? How about some changes in the mothership, right? No, how about the mothership goes as fast as a Stim Marine?
I've had such bad experiences with the Vortex where your whole army gets sucked in and the Archons. Oh, that was terrible.
Oh, to be fair, Protoss had the exact same experience on the other end.
Yeah, with the Neuroparasite. That's cool.
Yeah. But that's really that's some interesting thoughts and some stuff that we don't actually always hear about. Just changes of the Infestor. I think a lot of people actually might be weirdly on board with that if they actually give it enough thought and everything. So yeah, I'm actually a bit curious. How do you feel about your own play right now in the actual game? You said you had some trouble with DTs, but in general, throughout each of the different matchups, where do you feel your strengths and weaknesses are?
I think right now I'm pretty good in ZVP and ZVT. I have some good builds and feel really comfortable right now. ZVZ is probably my maybe not weakest statistically, but I don't feel as confident as I do in the other matchups just because it's a little bit of a weird matchup right now because there's so many early pools and everybody's 15 hatching, and it feels like kind of coin flippy, but you also need to take risks yourself, or else you're just going to get abused. So just going into that, I don't feel like it's as stable as the other matchups, but when your like 10 pool Baneling works, your 9 pool works, it feels really cool. But being on the other side, it feels really weird. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do in that matchup, but I think I'm improving steadily in all matchups. My ZVT is still pretty aggressive with the Roachling Bane all ends. I'm pretty notorious for doing those a lot. And also just doing a macro style with the Mutiling Baneling, which is very cool, especially with the new, what do you call it, Overseer buff, so you can just pick off the
Mm.
Widow Mines and then just stay defensive with Spine Crawlers, and the 3-base push is not as kind of unstoppable as it was before, so that's
Mhm.
not as viable. And then ZVP, I'm a little worried like late game because Zerg doesn't have the like super dominant composition that it used to have. So
Mhm.
in the middle of the game, I'm really confident. In the early game, I don't really die as much. But once you get to the really late game, I'm still a little shaky. But Mass Muta seems really fun, so I'm pretty happy with Zerg at the moment.
Mhm. And actually, you're saying mass mutal really works. So is that kind of the unit composition that you feel most comfortable with, especially in like say ZVP?
I think if you can get into a ZVP where your opponent doesn't go Mass Phoenix and you have Mass Mutalisk, I think you've pretty much just already won the game. It's a very hard for Protoss to win base raises and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably the most like common, or not common, most comfortable late game composition when you're on like 5, 6 bases. It's something I think it's really easy to use compared to like to the huge swarm host Viper compositions where you have to abduct and dodge Templar. I feel like that's takes a little bit too much APM for me. Not that good.
Yeah, the Vipers are like actually abducting things while they're getting fed back. It's like what happened? Which one
Yeah.
happened first? You don't even know anymore. Yeah, that stuff gets pretty crazy. But yeah, so I'm actually just kind of also curious. Who do you are generally like your big practice partners for each of the different matchups? Is it for the most part people on core gaming? Are you practicing with other people? Or are you mainly just kind of laddering? How do you spend those 3 or 4 hours that you have?
Normally I ladder on the NA and the EU server and sometimes on
Mm-hmm.
Korea if I can. But I do sometimes use people on core as practice partners, like some of the Protoss players we have. And the Terran players like Sonic, he's really good. And I played a couple games with Johnny Rico, but he's very good ZVZ.
Mm-hmm.
So I normally spend more time laddering than custom games. I play a little bit with Desro in custom games. He's surprisingly good. People don't give him as much credit as he deserves. His ZVZ is really his AVP is really strong.
Mm-hmm.
But besides that, I normally just ladder and just plug away.
Well, makes sense. A lot of people are doing that. And do you consider yourself to have any rivals, either among your practice partners or maybe just people who you encounter on the ladder and you absolutely hate? Like if you could disconnect their mouse every single game
Uh,
that they played StarCraft in, you would.
um, I don't know if I have any exact rivals because I don't think it's a mutual rivalry, but
Mm-hmm.
I like to think most of the kind of I wouldn't say up and coming, but kind of the mid to high tier NA players like Puck and other
Mm-hmm.
players like that who I want to become better than in the future. I do feel like I am rivaling with them, and like with up and comers like Betrayus and Jig, those kind of Zerg
Mm-hmm.
players who I want to kind of differentiate myself from and become better than them. It's definitely there's a little bit of rivalry there because everybody in StarCraft is trying to get so good, and there's so many players that you have to try to push yourself above them, or else you're just going to get left behind and forgotten.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's such a great point. There are so many people trying so hard, and some people kind of say like a lot. There are a lot of naysayers that kind of say like, it's impossible to really, pun intended, break out from the North American scene as like an up and coming player. And I feel like there are some people who are starting to do that. Do you find that you yourself are one of those kind of counter examples to people saying like, no, the North American scene it's impossible to break out of? Like, would you say that
Well,
that's the
I
case?
think if you're good enough, you can break out of any scene no matter what. It's
Mm-hmm.
just it's a matter of persistence and just how good you are. Like you could qualify, you could go in the qualifiers for Challenger League, and you could get Koreans like first round both times, and
Hmm.
it'd be really, really, really hard to qualify. But so in that sense, it is hard. But there are many qualifiers online nowadays. I think that there's like the Fragbite Masters, and I think the DreamHack one has one. Then WCS has qualifiers.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of qualifiers. So if you're good enough, you can definitely break out at the scene. It's a little harder for NA just because there aren't as many local tournaments that you can kind of go to, like the DreamHacks and
Hmm.
IEMs. Well, actually, there's New York IEM, so I take that back.
Yeah.
But it's I think it's possible. But I think getting into WCS, that system, is probably the main goal, especially in 2014. It sounds like there might be some changes, so it might be even easier or harder. We don't know yet, but hope it's easier in 2014.
Yeah, and I kind of like what you said about just the idea of being persistent because
Hmm.
just looking a little bit at your history and everything, I think that you played Jadong like the first or second round of
Yeah,
WCS America Season 1. And it's like, you compare that to now, like, yeah, you still face off against like some big Koreans. I think you faced off against Dragon round 1 or something
yeah.
this
Or
time.
it was like round two or something.
But it's still like a little bit more manageable than like freaking
Yeah,
Jadong, right? Like
like
Bonjol of
that's
Brood War, so.
you just got to keep trying and hope you get a little bit luck, and then you also get better over time.
Hmm.
Because if you're playing Jadong every time you go into qualifier, it's like it's very disheartening because you're just like, well, why am I even trying if I just keep getting these really, really good Koreans? But if you
Hmm.
keep trying, you'll get that lucky bracket, and then you get that one chance, and you go for it. We saw a lot of players like in this Challenger League were able to do that, like me and Desro and
Hmm.
Petraeus. I think Jig also
Yeah, Jig.
another kind of NA player. We're
Hmm.
all able to make it out, which is really cool.
Yeah, and you also kind of touched upon something that I wanted to talk about, which was 2014 WCS. A lot of expected changes coming in. Nothing officially announced as of
Yep.
yet, but I mean, what kind of things are you hoping for with that announcement?
Hmm. I'm hoping that the Challenger League does give you some kind of benefit in 2014, like this season's Challenger League, because that'd be unfortunate if it just all resets and you have to
Mm-hmm.
requalify. But
Yeah.
I'm hoping a little bit for region lock or not, maybe just residency requirement, something like that, because that's I always wanted to like compete against Koreans,
Mm-hmm.
but it's so hard to do that when you want to also break out of the scene.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where I really want because you do want to compete against the very best in like the game, right? But you
Mm-hmm.
also want to actually get money and stuff. So there is the kind of the balance there. So in the end, I think I am hoping that they do change something like residency or region lock. But
Mm-hmm.
then I feel like if I lose in that situation, I'll be even more sad than I would be now. Because like I don't know, I'm hoping some
Yeah.
changes do happen though. Because this season was great, but I feel it could have been a lot better
Mm-hmm.
this year.
Yeah. So I mean, what are your plans for like the future? Are you hoping to, like, you're just gonna keep shooting higher and higher until you maybe make it into Premier League, and then hey, maybe you end up facing off against, like, I don't know, some other American, like you face off against Suppy or something in the grand finals? I mean, clearly you've already mentioned how you've beaten Suppy before.
Oh, Suppy's extremely good. Probably the put him in like the second or third best North
Hmm.
American player, behind Scarlett.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they region lock it, then I think that's your goal, just to get into Premier League and eventually go to the global finals, see how you can match up against the Koreans.
Hmm.
So I think that's like everybody's goal, but it's probably what I'm aiming for. And I also want to try to qualify for another non WCS tournament, which would be really cool.
Hmm. That's fair. And just kind of talking about like that goal you mentioned earlier before, like school is always, of course, going to be your big priority right now. Does doing anything, like, for example, if you do make it into Premier League, regardless of whatever the changes are for region lock or not, next year, in fact, let's say a situation where you make it into Premier League where the Koreans are still going over there, you actually just have an amazingly fantastic breakout performance and do that. Does that change anything for you? Are you more interested in investing more time into StarCraft, or is this pretty much like the investment that you're going to be making, like what you're already doing?
I feel for the most part it'd be what I'm already doing. Maybe like the week before, like I would maybe take more time into StarCraft just to try to get in my best form possible.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm already doing quite a lot for StarCraft, and doing any more it might be like putting all your eggs in one basket. And if it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work out, then I feel like that's too much sacrifice in just one thing. But definitely making the premiere would probably give me more incentive, and also, like my parental units just like being like, oh, this is pretty cool. You're making
Hmm.
more money, so I guess it validates this kind of
Yeah.
hobby that you have.
Hmm. And I mean, honestly, like, how far do you expect to go or want to go? No, well, not just want to go. How far do you personally expect to go in WCS? Are you going to be the next American Foreign Hope? Are you going to be the man from the North defending his homeland?
I think I could expect to eventually make it into Premier League, and then from there, maybe like on a lucky run, I'd make it to maybe the round of 16. I'd be
Hmm.
really happy with that, and by the end of next year, to make it into the kind of deeper rounds of the American WCS. I don't know if I would peg my goal as winning it yet. That's a little bit too far. Or maybe probably making it to a global final once would be really awesome as well. But
Hmm.
that you have to get top five. That's still extremely hard.
Hmm.
But aim for the stars.
Yeah, and
Eventually, I'll get
actually,
there.
is it my understanding with the WCS? I think it's. I'm not sure if it's round of 16 or round of 8 that they actually start flying players out to play their matches. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's for Europe and NA it might be different. I think it's round of 16 or round of 8. Yeah, it's definitely
It's
one of those.
something like that. So, hey man, hopefully you will get that opportunity in the future. That sounds like an absolutely fantastic experience. But I do have to ask, like, what is your goal, or where do you see yourself sort of in, say, 2 years down the line? So, you're gonna have finished off high school and everything. Hopefully, be at some awesome college. Maybe play in the CSL. Maybe I'll see you somewhere in the CSL against my
Maybe.
home team. But like, where do you see yourself in 2 years and your involvement in StarCraft?
In 2 years, I hope I'm in college still studying.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I'm also better than I am now at StarCraft and still competing at a pretty good level. I'm not sure if college will help or detract from my StarCraft. Maybe like being more independent and learning how to manage your time better will help. But
Mm-hmm.
either way, I hope I'm. It's probably similar to now, but just a little different, more specialized. So I definitely see myself in college in 2 years, and hopefully still in Premier League, or at least Challenger League.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever WCS is then.
Yeah, and do you think that would ever transition and go into almost like a similar situation to the one that Suppy is in, where he's sort of full time, but he's also in school?
Mm. I think that's the best way because even if you don't make like a ton of money or
Mm-hmm.
be like the next foreign hope, if you can just stay at a pretty good level and be in school at the same time, I think that's a really good achievement. Just to be able to have that kind of level of both, not economic, of your achievement in StarCraft and in studying. So I think that's really great.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you so much, JonSnow. It's good to hear that you're always thinking macro focused and economically.
Yes, economic.
But with that being said, I think we're pretty much wrapped up over here. It's been absolutely fantastic to have you on. Do you have any shout outs that you want to give?
I'd like to give a shout out to my team, Core Gaming.
Mm-hmm.
They've been pretty good, and the sponsors Cellaflora mobile apps, Fun Sponge, and Core Design.
Mm-hmm.
They've been very great to me, and I think the team's going to keep growing, and it's going to get even better. And I'd also want to give a shout out to my Twitter at JonSnow SC2. You can follow me there. I'll just see when I'm streaming, and if I say anything, maybe not very vocal on Twitter yet, but maybe if I get more followers, I'll start talking to you guys. And lastly, I'd like to plug in my Twitch channel. It's Twitch TV/JonSnow SC2, same as my Twitter. And I'm streaming a little bit now, like almost probably like half the days of the week I'm streaming. I'm featured on Team Liquid now, so it gives you a little bit more
Yeah.
incentive on to stream. So it's really cool. And stream's a pretty fun time if you want to come and visit. And I want to thank you for letting me have the interview.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely fantastic to have you on and got some cool insight. Definitely going to be thinking a little bit more about, investor changes that could actually happen. That's actually a really interesting line of thought to go down. But hey, JonSnow, best of luck in WCS Challenger League. I'm seriously looking to see some fantastically awesome, great things from you in the future. But, in the more short term, I'm also looking forward to the games that you actually have already sent to me. So, guys, please tune in for the rest of Breaking Out. We're going to be doing another 5 episodes. There's a total of 6 episodes throughout a week, and 5 more episodes focusing on Jon Snow. We're going to be going over all of the 3 different matchups, Tuesday through Thursday, and then Friday we're just gonna cover an awesome game that he sent me, and then Saturday we're gonna wrap it up and just kind of have fun and chill out with JonSnow and probably go over some of the games. So, John, can I call you John? I know your name's Jared, but I'm gonna call you John because that's the natural abbreviation of JonSnow.
That's what everybody does.
But you're gonna find out exactly what the fun day is gonna involve. That could involve karaoke, could involve dancing, could involve fun custom matches. I could order you 5 pizzas and ask you to eat them in front of a camera as fast as you can. Like,
oh gosh.
So prepare your stomach for that, and audience, please prepare to watch that. That's over at twitch.tv/FearDragon64. You can go ahead and follow me over there and you'll just get notifications. But if you're too lazy for that, it's at 9 p.m. Pacific, Monday through Saturday. And of course, all the videos are uploaded to youtube.com/FearDragon64 pretty much immediately after the show, around 10 p.m. Pacific and 1 a.m. Eastern. So thank you all so much for tuning in. And thank you so much, Jared, for coming on. And
no problem.
Yeah, hope you guys have a wonderful night and enjoy the rest of the week.